Alright, so in this video what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I went in here. I started shaping the bowl, the different tools I used. This is a pretty long video, it's pretty extensive. I cut the seat angles, I cut the bowls out. The last video I had just installed the seat. So in this video I cut all the seat angles, I cut the seat angles on the exhaust. I show you how I bring the combustion chamber to a polish like this, from a polish like this. So we can take it from this rough surface like that to a polished surface like this, and I show you how to do it in this video quickly. Also I show you the correct angles to do on the intake and the exhaust for max power, and how you take these babies and you transform them through the combustion shape and through the flow to the horsepower making monsters that we all need. So stay tuned, this is a long video, lots of information in there, and sit back, get yourself a drink, some chips, and enjoy the show. Alright guys, so this is the bowl after I've gone in and relieved some of it, at least initially. It's now actually starting to look like a really big valve. So what I'm going to do now is, I just forgot to actually video what I was doing, but as you can see now, after having that big seat installed, it has a huge machinist ridge, which I knew was going to happen, and that's why I just did rough porting in here. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and I'm going to lay all this in and match this with the 3/4 inch flame burr, and I'm going to pull this in and get rid of that ridge. I'll get back. So another thing to always remember when you're doing the porting or the combustion chamber shape, put a couple dowel pins, take something like a pick or some type of scribe and scribe the gasket on. As you can see here, you can see the nice ring that it left after scribing, and that's where you can't go any further then, because that's the limits of your gasket. So right over here, I was waiting till I had my seat put in, but I want to pull this all the way back to that line till about here, and then let it curve in. And over here I want to pull this to this line and bring this to this line. You know, you just kind of want to make the walls of the chamber flush with the walls of the cylinder, so that way when the air is coming down, it doesn't go and loop around, it just swooshes right down the side of the cylinder. So that's another tip. As you can see, I've got the port cleaned up, the bowl underneath the seat that I had put in, and right now I'm just going and I'm taking out the machinist ridge. Started on it, but I used to have this all marked out, but I took carburetor cleaner and he milled the head and all that's gone, so I just wanted to remark my gasket and keep going. Alright guys, so what I'm doing here is I'm cutting the valve seat angles after we installed the big valve. Got my guide in. I'll show you it. So right now I'm going in with the 70, which is the big like bull hog, and I'm opening up the bottom here. Let me give it a clean for a second. So I just sprayed it down with some cleaner. So what I'm doing here is going in, this cutter here opens up the real base of the seat. So I'm pretty much just going in, opening that up, so there's not that much restriction under the valve. I've pretty much got my valve where I want it within the seat. If you can see how it's sitting, it sits right on the edge. And that's how you want it to be set up. So the 45 where it is pretty good. So I'm cutting my 70 to relieve all the material underneath it. And I'm going to bring the 70 down until the 70 comes through the entire seat and touches off into the bowl. I have pretty much got there now. I'll give it one more quick turn. After this, I'm going to hit it with the 60. After I went in and I put some pressure, now I go through it very light to 0 pressure and just spin it and give it what New Way refers to as dwell. After that, I can pull the cutter out and take a look. Better than anything is the feel. And the way this rolls over right now is very nice. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this off. With a little bit of carb cleaner. Now I'm going to set this up to cut my 60. So this is such a big bowl for the 43 that I have these 70s up in the way. So I have to drop those back down. This cutter that I have here is unbelievable. I mean, this is worth the entire kit money right here. This cutter here, a lot of shops don't even have this. Unless you go specifically to a machine shop that only or strictly does racing performance jobs, they'll probably have it, but one of the machine shops I go to normally, he's more of just a repair, cylinder head repair, does valve seats, stuff like that. He only has 45 and 30. I mean, he has a couple 60s, but he doesn't really use them. But this one with the 60 and the 75, oh my God. That 75 takes off so much material that, you know, you just look at it and you say, oh my God, if I didn't use that, how much would be in my way? So that 70 to me always like makes me just say like, wow, like so much material. All right. So here we go, we got the 60. Oh, I never reversed the bit. That's why it went on so tight. There's a shaft in here that can slide side to side. It's a different size bit. I have to use this wrench. And then you could slide this. And that basically just gets the hex head out of the way of the guide so you can really get down into the bowl. So there we go there. Tighten it back up. I mean, when you have 1/1000 interference fit, you'd be surprised at how tight things can get at times when you have metal shavings in between them and stuff. We need to clean this a little bit. What I'm going to do is just roll up a piece of scrap sandpaper. Just so I can run it through here. Sometimes they get grease buildup on them, and it doesn't take much with, I don't know what they run for interference, but it's tight. So sometimes just giving them a nice clean. This is 220 grit sandpaper here, so it's really fine. So now this should go on, no problem. Sometimes there's some metal dust on the guide. That's better. Oh, put it in the wrong way. Okay, now we'll get this down and we'll cut the 60. Huh. I had taken these blades out before, and I think I put them back in backwards. So let me flip them around and get them back in. So to put the cutters in, there's a small set screw with a flange on it that comes in and it grabs the bottom of the cutter bit. And the cutter bit itself has a taper on it. So it goes underneath the little flange, and when you tighten down the set screw, it grabs the carbide. Okay. So this is the 60. Okay, so this here is the 60 I'm gonna cut. And it's just a matter of removing the material. Now I have basically a seat design that I always run the measurements exactly to. I think I've posted it before in one of my porting videos, and it's basically a picture that is to scale, and you can just measure that and bring those ratios into your seat. So here we are with the 60. Now I can check it, see how it feels, and it's really starting to roll over. Feels really nice. So I've done the 70, the 60, and the 45. Just the rough. Bulk removal. This was a brand new seat, so we're just opening it up to get it, able to be used. So now we'll cut the 30 and the 15. Okay, so here, as you see, we have the 30 and the 15 on top, so I'm going to cut the 30 first. Okay, and now we'll cut the 15. Okay, so we've cut the 70, well, sorry, 75, the 60, the 45, the 30, and the 15. Now, what I'll do is take some Dykem, some blue dye, put it around the valve, take a valve, lap it in, and check my line. Now my valve, I've had some people ask questions about this. This is the valve if you want to look at it. So those are the angles I use. I'm not going to. Because this engine, I'm actually going to be trying to break the record with. I can suggest some very good angles. Besides, angles for the valve, depending upon your port size, your seat size, valve size, your port size, and your engine size, and the port angle, those all depict what back angle you want on your valve, and if you're going to need or want back cuts. So back cuts, by me saying what back cuts I have on this valve, isn't going to help, because your back cuts will be different. You can call John at Ferrea, tell him Paul sent you from Paul's Cots, and he'll help you out. The guy's amazing. If you need custom made guides, bronze guides, let me know. I had a bunch custom made. If you just need the guides, or if you want me to make a head, let me know. I have a couple people today drop off a pocket bike, XR18. Guy called me last night, said there was something wrong with the chain, or he couldn't shift. We're gonna take a look at that. But there's always something here. Projects going on, engines being built, something to go faster. But this is just the way I cut my valve seat angles, and I wanted to walk you through the process on this. This is pretty much the shape of my combustion chamber that I'm going to use. I'll do a separate video on why the combustion chambers are shaped this way. Before, I used to shape my chambers this way and I didn't know. But after going to all these dyno shops and talking to all these people, and they used to say, oh, I can't believe you made your combustion chamber this way, and they would tell me why. And then after knowing why, I went and researched it, and I could tell you exactly why. I didn't even know why. I knew I was right, but I didn't know why, and I'll tell you why in another video. Stay tuned to that video. I'll put it in the playlist with head porting and gx390 head, probably along with the playlist of 390 or big block 460 stroker. So I'll put it in a lot of playlists, so all this information you'll be able to find it. But as for now, that's pretty good. Roughed in, I'm going to put my Dykem, lap my valve, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so in this video what I'm going to be doing, I've already done everything roughed out so far. I've gone through it with the burr, and I've basically done the rough port blending on the seat. I've cut my seat angles, and roughed in the bowl so there's not the big ridge down here after we put the seat in. What I'm going to do now is go over the combustion chamber with a stone after I've done the burr, and the stone is going to knock down all the little lumps and bumps that you get when you do the burr. So I do the stone, I do it on a drill. I have a straight angle, well, I have a straight grinder, 1/4-inch grinder. I'll show you this, but this spins very fast. You see it? This spins very fast. And I also have a Dremel that's variable speed, but I feel like on the drill I get the best control and has the best variable speed. So I'm going to go through the combustion chamber with the stone, and I have stones of different shapes that I use, and I use these to knock down all the lumps and bumps on the heads. This will get it ready. The only thing I really try to polish is the top of the piston, the combustion chamber. I do some more internals, the journals, and where the bearings go in, but for the combustion chamber, I do the combustion chamber and the exhaust port. Those I bring to a polish. I do the burr, then the stone, and then I do the sand rolls, and then I do the cross buff. So let me start, and you guys can watch while I do a little bit of work here. Alright, so my camera died while I was doing it, but I've been starting with the stone, and as you can see, it gives a great finish. It really gets in there and lays it all down, and then you come in and you get into it with the cross roll, not the cross buffs, the sandpaper roll, the sand rolls. But I'll do a little bit more now that the phone's working. See if you guys could see some of it. Now I'm working actually on a tricky side, so I don't really have any way of holding it in the position I like it. This side's always a tricky side of the head for me to work on, but let me see if I can get in here and do some. So there's still a corner up here I want to get to. I think I'm going to switch to a different shape. I'm going to switch to a cone, more of a point. don't know how much I can enforce in the fact that your fingers are your absolute best tool when you're doing something like this. Your fingers can feel way more than your eyes can see. So now I'm just going to try to get down in this corner here. I know it's probably the worst absolute angle I could be videoing this at, but some things you just can't video. Now I'm just going to ease these edges up here on the brow just by rounding it over a little bit. And I'm going to switch to a different style stone for that. Because as you know, any sharp edge in this combustion chamber is going to be a key to detonation. Okay, so I have now as my combustion chamber, and the next is going to be sand roll. Alright guys, well my camera had died basically, right? I don't know what I got. I think I had stoned it, but after that I hit it with this, which is my mandrel with sand rolls, and then after that, like I said, the 1.5-inch cross buff, the workhorse, and as you can see, came out pretty good. I'm not bringing it to its complete finish yet. I'm not bringing the seat angle cuts or the chamber polish yet. The head's welding done on it, and I'm just kind of waiting on the welder. I don't do aluminum, so I always have to bring it to the welder. He's pretty good usually, but we just had Halloween pass, and I couldn't bring it to him last night. There's just some specific stuff about this exact head that I need to show him. But yeah, so here's a look at it. The combustion chamber, that's the optimum shape. Those are the optimum size valves. 43, 35. So yeah, till next time. Hope you like the head. As you can see, I've done the angles on the intake valve. That's got a 5-angle valve job. I'm going through now on the exhaust. Putting a 37mm exhaust in. So I've basically cut the 40. Here's the valve for air. So I've basically cut the 45, or the 46. I always use a 46 interference, but right now I'm going in doing the 60-75, and if you can see how wide this is, and also how nice of a finish these cutters leave. I mean, that thing is like shining. That's not polished, that's just cut. But if you see how wide this is, that's probably 200 thousandths wide. So unless you're going in here with the 70 and taking the, I mean, that's so much more meat that has to come out of this seat. So unless you go in here and you open it up, you're really not doing anything. What I do when I'm taking out a lot of the meat is, instead of using the handle and turning it, I just go through with this at first and remove the bulk of the meat with the drill. I like to be able to push down, so I need to use both hands, but this is the way I remove all of the meat from the this is how you really let those girls breathe. If you just go and put the seat, or if you put a bigger seat and you don't take out the big ridge underneath, or if you're gonna put a bigger valve in a seat and you put you take the 45 and you cut it so the valve sits in nice, but then you have this huge 45. If you don't take the bottom of this 45 out and only leave like 60 to 80, I like 60 thousandths of seat. Like if you can see here, this top 45 right here, just that lapped area from right there to right there, that's the seat. It's very, very small. It's just rough cut, not finished yet, because I still have to get the intake welded over here. But yeah, so you have to go in and take this out. So I'm going to take some out, and then I'll come back. I'll do some more work, and I'll come back. I took out some more with the 70. Pull the pilot out, and if you can see here, you can clearly see the 45 in the lower part of the seat here that's been taken out with the 70. Now I want to kind of give this a little bit more. Judging by the seat, I'll take a look at it. I want to give it a little bit more, and then I'll hit it with the 60 and I'll show you. Alright, so I'm going to try to get you I got the cutters out and stuff like that. I got a Sharpie out here, and I got my valve now, and I don't know if you can even see the angles, but we got, let's see if I can find something to point with. We got the 45 up here, and then this kind of groovy looking cut is a 60, and then down here is the 70. So the 70's to here, then the 60, and the 45. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the valve and pop it. So I'm going to take some marker, put it along the edge, put it into the valve, and push it down. Now I'm going to take it out and see where on the valve the line is, and it looks like it's right way back on the back edge of the seat. So what I'm going to do is take the 60 and open it up some more, and also open up the 45. I don't think that's quite big enough either, but I'm going to keep working the 60 and the 45 until the valves open up enough, and then after I get that where I want it, I'll hit it with the 30 and the 15. But I just wanted to show that step of marking the valve, bring it in, pop it down. When you pull it up, you'll see a line on the valve where it hit the seat, and that's where you can check it as you're going back and forth with the port in. I'll show you a little bit better when I get a little bit further along. That basically showing me where it hit. It's just showing me that the 45 seat's not big enough right now. So I'm going to do a little bit more work. And so what I wanted to show you here was I took my Dykem steel blue, put it on, and I'm going back and forth with the 60 and the 30. What I'm looking for now is that line where the 45 lays in. And if you notice, it's not quite even yet. over here it's thinner, then over here it's probably the thickest right here. So I bring those, working them back and forth until they touch, and then cut my 45, and that's how you true up the seat. So we're gonna go ahead and keep working this, and this is why you can't cut your seats before you put in your guides. Every time you put in your guide, it's gonna change your seat. So I'm gonna keep working this, and I'll show you back when I'm done. I'll re-dicom it, hit the 45, and you'll see just how even that 45 is all the way around. So I did some more cutting. I got all the angles out here, the 15, the 30, the 45, the 60, the 75. I've been going back and forth with this seat now. As you can see, it's really starting to open up compared to the intake, how small it used to be. Now they're almost touching in the center. I have to keep going a little bit further with it. The valve still doesn't want to sit in. Still need to make it bigger. So I'm just still working them back and forth. You can see here all the angles that are cut on there. 15 up the top where it cuts into the combustion chamber face. Then the small one there is the 30. Then the 45. The 60, and down the bottom the 75 into the shadow. So this is the true 5-angle cut. At this point I'll come back pretty much in between, but I have a special set of angles that I put on my valves, and you can be, I've put a picture. I'll probably post a picture now in the video, and I'll post a picture now. And basically that picture there, if you just scale it down to your valve, measure that picture on the screen of the computer, scale it down to whatever size you need. I would probably scale the 45-degree angle down to 60 thousandths unless you want to flow test your head significantly, and go from there. But that's how I put my valve seat angles. Those are the best angles to use. I always do the 5, at least 3. Anything under 3, you're gonna flow shit. At least 3. Most of the time 5 or more. I'd usually do a 5 and then a blend on both sides, so it's more like a 7. But that's the way I do the seats. So I'm gonna keep working. Well, I'm just talking now while the dicom dries, and I'm gonna keep going back and forth with my cuts until I get it true, and then I'll size my 45 and I'll be done. As you can see now, I went back and forth. Now this is I just dicomed it. You could see how much I actually had to take out of the combustion chamber just to get the valve to lay in the way I wanted it. That's why I said that the stuff that I had done before was just rough and I was playing because it still had to get welded. Now that I'm even just putting in this seat, I can see basically, because you have to level the seats, and you can see how much more I take this out to an angle 15 degrees from the seat up. So I have a 15-degree cutter, and you don't want anything to be within 2/100ths of an inch of the outside of the valve, or that's considered shrouding. So I basically just measured it with my caliper, set my 15-degree top cut 200 thousandths wider than the valve, and spun that in. And now when I blend that ridge there, I'm going to have the proper 0 shrouding on the exhaust valve. And if you look at how perfect and round and symmetrical that line is there, that's the only way you will ever seal something up that tight. Now I have to tell you, on this exhaust valve alone, I spent damn near an hour doing this one valve, and it's not even done yet. I got my 45, but I still need to go in there, hog out with the 70. Now that I have my 45 set, I can go through and put on all my measured cuts. But that's my seat, and I work from there. I have it all basically symmetrical at this point. Everything is congruent with that guide. Everything is perfectly straight with that guide now. So every single angle on there is exact. And both of the seats are on the same plane. I'm sorry, my hands are a mess. This stuff is gross, but you can't even imagine the amount of work it is to actually get these things right. But this is how you do it right. This is how you get the power. And if you're not doing the valve seats right, you're not making power. Period. This is the only way you make power. All of your flow comes from your valve seats. That's the biggest thing you can improve. Number one, put in a bigger valve. Or if you're not doing that, number one is cut that seat angles perfect. And if you can't put in a bigger valve, cut those seat angles perfect and flow test it, you might as well not even show up to the game, because anybody that's really doing it and doing it right, that's the only way you can do it. So I just wanted to show you how I cut the seats, and yeah, that's how we do it here, and that's how they always come out so perfect, seal up so hard, and make so much power. This is the start to a beautiful horsepower. These babies right here, these two girls right here, are everything. You know, these things are like touching. You can't get any more valve in there. All right, guys, had to move it inside. Started raining outside, but as you can see here, we got the valve in. We got some Dykem on there. We're gonna lap it in, and we're gonna check out the line. So I'll lap this valve in, and I'll show you what we got in a second. All right, so we got the valve in, and we lapped it in. Pop it out. Show you what I'll do. So it's the caliper. I've already measured it out. Clean the end of it. And if I could focus the camera, get a good angle on it, like right there. We're at 65 thousandths, right on the money. And then if we look at the valve, we're at 65 thousandths, right on the money. And that's what you're looking for. You just want to make sure that your valves get lapped in. A way I always check them is, and the best way you could check it is to hold the head up to a light and look through the ports. Make sure you can't see any light. We'll take a flashlight, put the flashlight on top of the head, and look through the ports. Make sure you don't see any light. Sometimes after you lap the valve, you know, you might have some crud in there, so just make sure the seat's all clean and the valve's all clean. And if you don't see any light, that's the best way. You know you're going to be sealed 100%. If in fact you want to go one step further, you can pressure test them. But if you don't see any light, sometimes I've had them at the machine shop where the guy pressure tests it. I'll bring the head home and look and still see some light from like a little corner or a speck. But here's the head. The valves pretty much sit where they're supposed to be sitting. I still have to go back in, clean this up. If you notice, I had to take, what you want to make sure is that you have 200 thousandths. Let's see, we'll set this to 200 thousandths. Lock it in. You want to make sure you have 200 thousandths all the way around your valve. If you see here in the corner, I have this flat surface here. I set my my cutters here, and I set them. I measure it out to 200 thousandths bigger than the valve, and I make sure that you have a nice 15-degree angle all around the valve. I have to come back in here now and blend this corner, but if you can see, it's pretty much right on the combustion chamber edge. I have about 30 thousandths, so I have to get in here and blend this corner. But more importantly, like back over here is the most important to blend. But yeah, that's how I'm setting up this head. Just wanted to show you. This is how you get the maximum power out of the head. It does take a lot of time. At this point I probably have 40 plus hours into this head, and we're still going. We still need to do more shaping and polishing in the combustion chamber and more welding on the intake side, and then after that is done, I'm gonna have to come inside and shape the rest of the intake port. That's gonna have to be ground down when I put the tube in and it's welded. That's gonna have to get ground down and then all filled in with epoxy, and then shape the inside of my bowl. But the exhaust valve, I'll pull it out for you. I need to go in here. This side's gonna get polished. I have to just go through, but that's the way the exhaust guide looks. It's a little bit flatter than the intake guide, seeing as though it's coming through much more powerful that way. So yeah, I'll get back when I take some more progress. Maybe I'll come back and I'll show you guys the finish after this is all blended. Still a lot more work. I feel like posting the video, so maybe I'll just post this and then show you guys some more in the next video. This is basically how you set up the valve seats. Okay.